Hello everybody, my name is Kyle, this is 39, welcome back to another video. Today in this one it's going to be another deck profile video, and in this one it's going to be my updated Yubel Fiendsmith deck post-December 2024 ban list. Yeah, it's actually been a bit since I've talked about this deck. The last time I made a deck profile on this was back in September, about middle September, so it's about 3 months since the last time I've talked about this deck, and I actually do want to talk about this deck once again for a couple reasons. Number one is, well, obviously the ban list does change a lot. We got opening back to 3, but at the cost of Phantom going to 1. Now this makes sense. This was always going to happen. This card probably shouldn't have existed at more than 1 for a while, just because obviously when you look at the deck with it at 2, it was doing some degenerate shit. Now the deck can still do a lot. Again, we'll talk about this more once we get into the deck profile though. But the second reason I want to talk about this deck is, well, I kind of have a couple thoughts on the deck, to be honest with you. It's been, again, like I just said, it's been a while since I've talked about the deck, and I do have a couple of things I do want to talk about, not only about the good things with the deck, but also the flaws with the deck that it's actually kind of developed since the last time I've talked about the deck. And I think I'm kind of a good person to talk about it because basically from Nats to before Rage of the Abyss, I kind of went on a really good run. Not only did I make day 2 at Nationals, which is wild to think about because I haven't even day 2 to YCS yet, by day 2 to Nationals, but I nearly top 64 event. If I decided to win my final round, I would have had a chance to top 64. Not a good chance, but a chance to top 64, but I decided to break against Gimmick Puppet FTK, so fuck me, I guess. But a week after Nationals, I went to a Lubbock Regional and won the entire event, which is insane with this deck as well. And then about a month after that, I got second place at the Albuquerque Regional with this deck as well. That was post Banlist, where they hit opening to 1, but didn't hit Phantom. But I got second place at the Albuquerque Regional with that list, and that was the last time I talked about this deck. So I kind of have a good feeling with the deck. I think I kind of know the ins and outs, and that's why I think you can kind of somewhat trust me, because I did well with this deck, and I kind of want to talk about the deck one more time. But without further ado, no more explanation, let's actually get into the deck profile itself, shall we? So, starting off with the non-engine first, we are playing 3 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Ash Blossom of Joy Spring, 3 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Infinite Impermanences, and 2 Talents, and obviously the Called by the Grave to go with it. I think that's what, 12, 15 technical non-engine cards that we are playing with the deck. Now, I think Ash and Droll, I think, are mandatory for this deck, because one of the flaws that have developed since the last time I talked about this deck is Fuwalos. Fuwalos is now a card that exists in the game that did not exist since the last time I talked about this, and Fuwalos hits this deck hard. It really does. Not only does you summon from the extra deck a shit ton of times, but you also summon from the main deck a lot as well. So you kind of want to have the outs to Fuwalos, so that's why I'm playing Ash and Droll. Now, Ash isn't terrible. I think this is actually a really good card for this format anyway, so I think Ash is a mandatory anyways, even if Fuwalos didn't exist, just because being able to hit like a duo drive or being able to hit like the traps in Malice as well is insane for that. So I think Ash is pretty good anyways, but Droll is kind of the other hand trap I don't necessarily like. Now, against Rizal, obviously it's kind of good, but you know, they're still going to make a detonator, which is still going to be a problem. Now, this hand trap, it just isn't the greatest in the world, so if I had the choice of not playing this, I would, but the fact that Fuwalos is in the format makes it where you still want to play Droll just so you have the out to Fuwalos, because you can play under Droll pretty well anyways. You just want to make sure you can play your game, and Droll makes it where you can play under a Fuwalos. They draw a card, you draw them, and then you can still play your game without giving them, 20 million draws. So that's why I'm playing Droll. This is, again, one card I would cut if Fuwalos didn't exist, but obviously Fuwalos does exist, so you kind of want to play this card. Nibiru the Primal Being, I think, is really okay. It's not the greatest in the world, but again, the fact that we're only able to play like 15 non-engine, which is a lot to think about, that's still a lot of hand traps, but compared to what the top decks are doing, like Rizal and Malice, where they can pretty much play like 20 hand traps and still be fine, you kind of have to conserve a little bit. So Nibiru is like kind of a board breaker of some sort. Like, obviously the Rizal can somewhat play around it depending on how they play it, and Malice can somewhat play around it. But when you're going first and then your opponent tries to break the field, Nibiru the Primal Being is just that, make sure you don't die button, and they're pretty much going to have to pass the turn as well. So I don't think it's the greatest, but I think it's still pretty solid in this format as well. Imperm, I think, is the best hand trap in the game. I think you have to be playing this no matter what deck you're playing. I think this card is just a mandatory. And then I'm playing 2 talents just because I think hand traps are everywhere. So talents being able to look at hand or going second to break a field is really good as well. And obviously the called by is in here for the Fuwalos, but also other hand traps in the format as well. Something like Ash and Valor and Ghost Door comes up as well for this. Ooh, timed out to dude inactivity. Oh my god, I guess I was just sitting there for a little bit too long. So that's kind of my non-engine that I am playing. Alrighty, before we talk about the engine cards, I want to quickly talk about Fuwalos and why I'm not playing it, because it's kind of the thing I kind of missed out initially. So the reason why I'm not playing Fuwalos and the reason why it's not played, or you don't see it in the deck list, is because I don't own it in person. This is one of those cards I do not own in person, and I don't plan on owning it anytime soon. And I'm one of those people where I only want to play with cards that I own, right? So that's kind of how I play online, is I only play with the cards that I own, just so kind of get the feeling of what I do with the cards I have in person. That's just kind of a me thing. Now, if you do own this card, do play this card in this deck for sure, and especially play cross out in the side deck as well for it as well. But I just don't own this card, and that's the reason why you don't see it in the deck list, is because I don't play with cards online that I don't own myself, just because I kind of want to get the feeling of what it's like not playing with the card, because I'm not going to have that, or I'm going to have that feeling when I go to locals and I don't have the card playing it, obviously. So that's the reason why it's not in the deck list. Again, if you do own this, do play this card and do play cross out in the side deck, but that's the reason why you don't see it in the deck list. But yeah, so that's it for the non-engine. Let's actually talk about the engine. So I am playing 3 Engraver and 1 Lacrima for the Fiendsmith stuff. So Lacrima is a little bit newer since the last time I talked about this. This is pretty standard ratio, nothing to really think about here. We're also playing the Laurel here as well, and then the 1 tracked with the Fiendsmith stuff as well. Again, pretty generic stuff. The Fiendsmith stuff does do a lot for your deck though, because it helps you get access to the Yubel engine. If you just have Engraver, at least it can get you to your Yubel engine, which compared to every other deck that's playing Engraver, except for maybe the Castria Fiendsmith, Engraver doesn't get them to the engine, like the Rizal Fiendsmith. The Fiendsmith stuff does not get them to the Rizal stuff, while the Fiendsmith stuff for us will still get us into the Yubel engine, thanks to the cards like Ariel Eater existing for us as well. So I think this is very much a mandatory card that you do have to play in this deck. Now for the Yubel stuff, we're playing the 3 Samsara Lotus, 1 Beckoning Beast, 1 Chaos Summoning Beast, 2 Gruesome Grave Swimmers, and obviously the Yubel stuff of 2 Spirit, 1 Yubel, and 1 Terror Incarnate as well. Obviously, Samsara is in here just kind of as a 1-card combo that gets you into Spirit. Spirit gets you into Nightmare Pain, and this kind of just lets you go 1-card combo, which is why you do have to max this card out. I'm only playing 1 Beckoning Beast and 1 Summoning Beast because opening is now at 3. I was playing this ratio before like that anyways. I think I was playing 2 Beckoning Beasts, but now we have Lacrima, so you only necessarily just need the 1 now. But opening is a better card for you to draw compared to Beckoning Beast, because Beckoning Beast, as a normal summon, if it gets hit, is bad, so that's why I don't like to max out on this. If you're playing more than 42, maybe you play more Beckoning Beast, but I kind of made it where it's a restriction to only 42. I don't really want to go above that, so I played Beckoning Beast at just 1. This is a perfectly fine ratio. This is just because opening is the better one that you do want to draw. So you want to draw this more because this is technically an extender on top of it as well. And it plays less into draw. Now, it still plays into draw, but plays a little bit less into draw. So that's why kind of the ratios are a little weird there. Summoning Beast is obviously bad, but you're playing it because obviously this is for opening. If you open opening, you got to go opening, search Beckoning, Beckoning, search for Summoning Beast, because Beckoning can't search for itself. So that's why we still have to play the 1 Techno Brit in Summoning Beast. We're only playing 2 Grave Skirmer. Now, this is standard, I would say, when you look at all Yubel list, but I've always been the person that always wants to play 3 of this card. I think this card is really, really, really good. I do want to play 3 of this card, but again, that 42 card restrictionness is the reason why I'm playing it at just 2 for now. Again, 2 is pretty standard anyways, so that's fine, but that just kind of peeves me just because I do like this card a lot and would prefer to play at 3, but again, I want to keep it at 42. Obviously, the Yubel stuff, 2 Spirit, 1 Yubel, 1 Terror Incarnate. Maybe you can get away with playing 1 Spirit, but I think this is very standard. I think you do have to play the second Spirit because Bestials are in format, so you do want to have the second Spirit just in case the first one does get Bestialed. So yeah, for sure have to kind of play it in this ratio as well. Obviously, the Laurel was a part of the Fiendsmith stuff, and we're playing the Unchained Soul Lord of Shavara because we're playing the Unchained package in the extra deck as well. For the spells, we're playing the 3 Nightmare Throne, which is really, really good in this deck. You do want to draw this card all the time, helps you to play through a field, gets you to a starter. It's really, really good. You do want to play this. It's a starter and an extender, like probably one of the best cards in the deck still that you still want to play. Obviously, I already talked about the opening. I already talked about talents. Playing the 1 Nightmare Pain because obviously with Spirit, it can set it. And then Pain Destroy Spirit is really good. You only necessarily need to play 1. I think playing more than 1 is just a good way to brick yourself because this is a card you don't necessarily want to draw. So yeah, I think you just playing 1 is fine. I'm only playing the 1 track. Maybe some people might play 2, but I think the 1 is perfectly fine, especially since you're maxing out on engravers anyways. We already talked about Called by the Grave. 1 for 1 I think is really good because not only does it access maybe the Yubel stuff, but also access the Fiendsmith stuff with the Laurel as well. So it's just an extender for the deck that you do want to play. Terraforming to get to Nightmare Throne, and then we already talked about Imperm as well. I'm not playing an Unchained Trap just because, again, I'm trying to put the restriction to 42. I kind of don't want to go above that. If you do want to play the Trap, I think a Bomb is probably better than Escape if you do want to play a Trap. But I don't think a Trap is really that necessary anymore. So I think this is perfectly fine. But if you do want to play a Trap, play Abomination. But I'm putting myself to the 42 card restriction. So that is it for the main deck. Now, before we get into the extra deck, I kind of want to talk about the flaws with the deck. So obviously the Fuwalos is a flaw for the deck that exists now, but I think the other flaw with the deck is compared to what the top decks are doing, the deck is kind of bricky. Like, you're playing a lot of bricks in this deck. Not only does the hand traps count as bricks, but obviously you kind of don't want to draw the Yubel cards. You don't want to draw Summoning Beast. You don't want to draw the Nightmare Pain. You're playing a couple bricks. Laurel is also another brick in the deck as well. This is a card you want to search, not draw. Same thing with Shavara. Shavara is like a hit or miss. Sometimes it's good to draw, sometimes it's not. So that's kind of the problem with the deck, is it's kind of bricky. Now, compared to what other decks are doing now, things like Rizal, right? Where they're only technically playing 2 to 3 bricks, and this deck is playing like 7, I think. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7 bricks, 8 technically if you want to count Pain as well in the deck. And think about Malice, like none of their cards are really bricks. Like the traps are like technical bricks, but they're also pretty good as well to draw. Like compared to those two decks where they're not playing that many bricks, that's where the flaws kind of show as well. Now, beforehand, you were playing that many bricks as well. Like that's always kind of been a problem with the deck. But beforehand, the other top deck was Snake Eyes, which also was playing around 7 to 8 bricks. So that's kind of how the format was. But now compared to this format, where it's a lot of just 1-card combos, while this deck doesn't have that many 1-card combos, it does have like Nightmare Throne is a 1 card, Samsara is a 1 card, Technical Beckoning Beast is a 1 card as well. Engraver is also a 1 card. It does have a lot of 1-card combos. I guess I was kind of over exaggerating with that. But compared to, it has to play a lot of bricks to go with that as well, compared to the other 2 top decks don't have to play the bricks to go with it, as well as kind of another flaw with the deck as well, which is unfortunate. So it has the Fuwalos problem, and it's somewhat of a brick problem as well, just because you're playing a lot of engine as well. Now, the end board it ends on is better than what the other 2 top decks are doing as well. So that's kind of the plus with it, is your end board is going to be a lot better compared to what the other 2 decks are doing. But obviously that's the give or take. You're ending on a better board, but you have to play a little bit more bricks in the deck as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to get across as well with the deck as well. So now with that out of the way, let's get into the extra deck. We are playing obviously the Requiem, the Sequence, the Moon. This is obviously for the Fiendsmith stuff. You want to play this. And obviously I'm playing the Desiree with the Ariel and the Necroquip as well. The Necroquip isn't as necessary anymore because you do have the Lacrima, but this is a kind of play around Nibiru. If you want to go for a DDD line to play around Nibiru, that's why it's still in here. It's not as necessary as you think it is, but it's still in the extra deck. That's kind of your Fiendsmith stuff that you're playing. Obviously, the Aerial Eater is insane because it makes it where the Engraver is just a one-card combo. Being able to dump any Yubel guy and then going into a Muckraker to bring it back and then go Yubel combo is really, really, really good. So, obviously, Muckraker is in the deck. This is really good. I was not playing this initially, but now that Phantom's at 1, you have the extra deck room for me for playing the Muckrakers. This is a card I did not play initially, but a lot of people were playing. So this is out of the realm of possibility. This card is really, really good. Again, like I said, makes Engraver kind of a one-card combo. SP, best extra deck card in the game. You do have to play SP the Little Knight. The Unchained package of Yama, Soul Rage. I am playing Anguish and Access Code as well. This is always something I was playing. I think this is really good. You kind of want to go second with the deck. So this makes sense for you to play in this deck as well. I just talked about the DDD High King Caesar. Obviously, this is kind of play around Nibiru, but it's really good against something like a Malice as well, because being able to just negate the banished effects are insane. But playing the Verados, this is our Omni-Negate of choice. We have Desiree as well, but Verados can be easily made with like the Yubel stuff, so this isn't that hard to make as well. And then that's kind of it for the extra deck. I think if I want to throw another card in here, Sky Crisis is really good against something like the what was it called, Rizal deck, but that's pretty much it. I think everything else is pretty standard with this. I think Sky Crisis is the only thing I'm missing, but yeah, I prefer to play the Anguish and the Access Code. So maybe if you want to like side deck these instead, that's fine, but I think this is a pretty good extra deck, not gonna lie. I really do like this extra deck a lot. Now for the side deck, this honestly can be whatever the hell you want it to be. It does not need to be these cards. Honestly, this is just what I'm playing, but the side deck can be whatever the hell you want to be. I'm playing Lancia because that's the Malice out. You do want to play Lancia for Malice. I am playing Droplet, so this is kind of a thing that I'm siding in, so when I know I'm going second and I don't have to worry about Fuwalos, I take out the Droll, I put in the Droplets just to board break more. I like Metaltronus in the deck. This was a card I was playing for the Albuquerque Regional, and I really loved it then. And I still, I think, like it now as well, because if you play like the Rizal deck, Nibiru is your target because you target the Detonator. Detonator is a light 3k. Nibiru is a free special summon off that, and you do negate the Detonator as well. And if it's like against Pier, that's insane. Obviously against the Fiendsmith Rizal, it's a little bit different. Against any Fiendsmith like deck, like Castria Fiendsmith, being able to like negate the DDD and then summon a Desiree is always insane as well. So I think this is really, really good. This technically has a target against Malice as well. Being able to, you have Verados, which is a dark 3k for Terahertz, but a lot of the time Terahertz isn't at 3k, so a lot of time this isn't that live. But being able to target the White Binder when they summon it off TC06 to summon Access Code is kind of insane because this is a dark 2300 attack. That's White Binder's effect as well, so that's a technical target, but this isn't as great against Malice. I'm playing 2 Thrust and a Change of Heart. Again, this is just stuff that you don't necessarily have to play. I just love Thrust, so that's why I'm playing it. And I'm playing 3 Daruma. I'm not playing Barrier just because I think Daruma has more hits in this format. Like Barrier is only really against Rizal, while Daruma Cannon can be against pretty much any deck that you verse against. And a lot of people aren't playing a cross out to call this card either, because that's kind of the problem with Rizal as well, is they're playing D-Barrier to go cross out, call D-Barrier. If you're playing Daruma, you never have to worry about that, and this does still hit that deck as well. So yeah, that is it for the deck profile. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I know it went a little bit rambly there. That's just because I haven't talked about the deck in a little bit, and I kind of wanted to give you my thoughts on the flaws and stuff like that. I still think the deck is overall still really, really good. I don't think it's the best deck anymore. That used to be my opinion on the deck, is that this deck used to be probably one of the best decks in the format. I no longer think that's the case, just because you are playing a little bit more bricks compared to what the top 2 decks are doing. And obviously Fuwalos exists as well. And obviously Shifter is pretty bad for this as well. If you verse a Malice and they Shifter you, you're pretty much losing that game. Unfortunately, compared to what Tempai was doing, at least you can somewhat control with the Yubels and make sure you don't die. That's no longer the case in this deck, unfortunately, anymore, because Malice can play under Shifter like it's job. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you leave like, oh sorry, my bad, fuck that up. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.